Hi guys, welcome back to another video. So how have you all been? I am so excited for autumn. Like finally it's like autumn here and I just like can't wait to just get all cozy. Literally October is right around the corner. Like I'm just so excited for all the autumn Halloweeny stuff. So today's video, I'm doing quite a few book videos, but I'm not mad about it and I hope you like that, guys. Obviously my channel's not solely on books, it's not a booktube account, but I do love my books and I do like to talk about books. So if you like books but you don't want to see solely loads of book content, I'm the girl for you. So today's video, if you've seen by the title, is my best book recommendations to get you out of a reading slump or even to get you into reading. There's a few here that I've actually got to probably show you, and there's a couple that I've got on the Kindle or I just don't have with me that I also want to talk about. But I started getting into reading during lockdown, and I used to be the kind of girl that was like, no, I can't like read a book, the pictures just don't stick in my head, I prefer to watch the movies. There's this one book I read in lockdown and it's just got me hooked, and now I just can't stop reading, and I'm currently on a book buying ban. So we all have reading slumps and they are so annoying. I absolutely despise them. At the moment I'm in my phase where I'm constantly reading books. Like I'll read one straight after the other and I'm like reading them so quick, like within like 6 days. But I know reading slump's probably going to be around the corner soon. So here are some books that I think will help you get out of your reading slump or even get you into reading, just because they're so gripping, the writing just flows, and it's not just solely one genre of book like romance, it's romance with a bit of everything else. So the first one I'm going to talk about is actually a dark romance book. So this is Scarred. This is the first ever dark romance book I have ever read. And I definitely am going to be reading more soon. I loved this. So this book is by Emily McIntyre, I think that's how you say his surname, and she writes the Never After series. So this is one of many. She's coming out with still more books, and she writes them all from, I guess, the villain's point of view of a book kind of thing. So this is Scar from Lion King, so you kind of read his point of view and she kind of comes up with a story of it. It's hard to explain, but oh my gosh, it's so good, and I am going to be reading more of hers soon. So this one was, I do have to say, really dark, very gory. There were bits that I was like, I don't really want to read that because I don't like gory stuff, but there wasn't too much of it, and basically these are, I can't remember what it's called, but it's like a royal, almost Victorian kind of storyline, but within the present day. So they're not lions in this, they're all humans. So there's this guy called Tristan who's like Scar, and his brother Michael, which is like Mufasa, he, just like in the movie, Scar wants to be king and he hates his brother. Him and his brother never got on since they were like kids. And there's this lady, what's her name? And then there's this lady Sarah who wants to be queen. So she wants to marry Michael, but she has a little bit, she doesn't actually like Michael because Michael did something terrible. So basically Sarah wants to get revenge and she wants to kill the king. But the thing is, Tristan also wants to kill the king, and there's kind of like forbidden romance going on here. Tristan and Sarah kind of hit it off unexpectedly. Oh, it's so good and it's so gripping, so fast paced. I just flew through this book. I literally, my friend said to me, like, you read that quick? Like, I absolutely love this book, and I love the little references that they have of Lion King in this. Like there'll be some bits where Tristan will be talking and Scar will actually say those lines in the movies. Like, I love this book. If you guys know, but there's also a Lion King 2 and I love that movie. So there's Lion King 1 and there's Lion King 2, but if you've seen those movies, both of them merged together is kind of like this storyline. Like those movies merged together brings out this baby. So if you love that kind of stuff, this is the book for you. Okay, so the next book is Never Never by Colleen Hoover and Taryn Fisher. And I put my friend Evie on this because I said to her, you will love this book. This book is amazing. And she loved it. She loved it. She was kind of like sending me like videos telling me how it was going. Oh, and she was like, I was like, I know you'd love this. So this book is between a high school couple, so Charlie and Silas. So Charlie and Silas, they love each other and they're at school, but something happens and all of a sudden they've lost their memory, but it's only them two, so everyone else has got their memory, but it's just Charlie and Silas. They kind of just wake up one day and they're at school and they have no idea who they are, who anyone is, what's what. They literally don't know anyone. They don't know their parents, they don't know each other, they don't know where they live, like absolutely nothing. They just have no clue, but they work out together why this is happening, and they kind of go on a journey. Like they unfold the secret of why they've lost their memory, basically. I know I'm not explaining it that well, but this book is so good. So it's not just romance, it's like mystery, suspense, like there's just so much that goes on in this book, and it's just a little book and there's so much that goes on in it. It's so good. You also kind of figure out, they both figure out why their relationship wasn't doing that well and it was actually going downhill. Whilst they've lost their memory, they're also trying to figure out what happened to them too, and what went wrong and why it just went downhill. It's like watching their relationship grow as well as know about their past, memories, why they're gone. Like there's kind of some scary bits that happened as well. There's parts where Charlie goes missing and Silas has no idea where she is, and they're literally about to lose their memory in like 3 hours, and she's missing, and then when he loses his memory in 3 hours, he will have no clue that she's even missing. So it's so, you're so on edge reading this book. Literally, I was like, when it was getting up to that part, I was just like, quick, you gotta find her now before you lose her memory. And it's so sweet, and like their relationship is so cute. I absolutely love these two. I'm not explaining this book that well. I'm sure Evie could probably explain it better, but I'm just saying you need to read this book. It is so good, so good. It was instant 5 stars. The next one, this, I read that one, and I think the one I read after was literally hopeless, and I was like, this is my favourite book of Colleen Hoover's. So both of these books were actually library books, and I was so mad because I loved them so much. I was like, I would have so annotated them. I can annotate them again, but it's not going to be the same as reading it the second time, so I had to buy my own copy. This one is, it's so good. There is so much that happens in this book. It's like romance, mystery, drama, suspense, and it's tense in moments. So I said to Evie, she likes that book, she's got to read this one. So this one is between another high school kind of couple. So in this one you follow along a story of a girl named Sky. She's adopted and she has a great best friend, but her best friend moved away, and she bumps into this guy called Dean Holder. She sees him in the store, and they go to the, I think they went to the same school, although he got expelled, but they went to the same school, and he recognises her, like he, not just from school, because I think he was a few years above at school, but he knows her from somewhere. Anyway, she keeps ending up bumping into him, and she starts falling for Dean, but there's a huge secret that Dean knows that he won't tell her. This secret, I'm telling you guys, I was not expecting that whatsoever. Like, you'd think this is just a normal cute romance book, but no. But no. That's just a little bit, The rest of the story, I was like, sorry, what? The whole time I was reading this book, I felt like I was actually hyperventilating, like I was gasping for air. Usually when you read a book, there's just one plot twist. This one had many plot twists right after each other, and I was just hyperventilating. So yeah, there's this big secret, and he ends up telling Sky, that's when everything changes. Everything changes, all for the good. But they both have a very dark secret past as well, so they both kind of relate to each other off that. They have a connection because of that as well, amongst other things, but they both connect like that. And oh my god, this book, like, I'm not explaining these books very well because I don't want to go too much into it because I don't want to spoil anything, and I don't want to accidentally spoil something because that's something I'd probably do. But I'm not lying, you've got to read this book and Never Never. If you've got to take anything from this video, you've got to read these. Like, please, I'm practically begging you. So this was literally an instant like 5 stars for me, and I love it so much, so much. I'm trying to get all my friends to read it. Okay, so the next book is We Were Liars, and I know this book is really a hit or miss. It's either a love it or you hate it kind of book. At first, when I got this, because it's so tinsy, it's so tiny, I was like halfway through and I was really confused on what was going on. Like, the writing style on this is a bit confusing, but I think it's because you follow along a girl named Cadence, but she has a memory problem, I guess, a brain injury, and this decides to mess with her head a bit. So when you're reading this, you're reading as if you're in her head. So I guess being confused is very clever, to be honest, because that's how she's feeling as well. So it kind of feels like you're literally Catherine herself. But I actually loved this book. So at first I thought, oh gosh, I'm not going to like it because it's so confusing. But it got like just over halfway and I was like I understood the right, and then it got to the final part and I was like, I was gone by that point. I was crying. I did not expect it. I didn't know this was a sad book. I just saw that everyone really liked this book. And yeah, I was not prepared. I was not prepared. If you wanna have a good cry, read this book. She has a really rich family, and her granddad and grandma have their own private island. It actually gives you a map, which I think is really cool. So this is the map. This is the island, and every single summer they go to this island with her family, her cousins. And then sometimes her cousins brings friends. And there's this one boy, Myron, I think his name is. She likes Myron and he likes her back, but nothing really kind of happened between them two. But there was definitely some chemistry. And they were always kind of like hitting it off with each other, but they just never made it official. And so Catherine hangs out with her cousins and Myron, and they call themselves the Liars. So that's their kind of group name, the Liars. And when I realised the title, We Were Liars, that broke my heart even more. Like, I understood it. And I want to read this the second time because it's going to be really interesting to read this for the second time. It's hard to explain, but obviously I'm not going to spoil anything. But when you know the ending, you're like, hang on a minute. Like, reading it for the second time will probably feel like reading it again for the first time, because you understand it a bit more. You can take little hints out somewhere. Where Catherine has like this memory problem where she had this accident, she has no clue what happened to her and no one will tell her, and she kind of goes throughout the book trying to get answers off her family members and her cousins, and they won't tell her. Eventually she does find out what happened, and yeah, broke me. I've never cried at a book. I read this a year ago and I've never cried so hard at a book in my life. I've shed a tear over some books. This one, I was sobbing and I couldn't stop. And still to this day, it's been a year and still to this day, I can't stop thinking about it. This book is on my mind. I'm still mind blown by it. Please read this one. And it's only short. It's a tiny little book. It's just over 200 pages, so it's a quick read. And the next one I've got here is Shatter Me. Oh, this one's by E. Lockhart as well. I forgot to say that. So this one is by not by Shatter Me. This one is Shatter Me by Tariha Murphy. I don't know how to pronounce her name, so sorry about that. I'm the worst for names. This book, so I bought this one just because everyone talked about how good this book was, and I went into the store, I went to Waterstones, and I read the blurb and I was like, sounds good but not great. Like, I just kind of thought, right, I'll buy it. It's either going to be a hit or miss for me. I didn't think I would like it. this was 5 stars, and I don't rate any book 5 stars. They have to be superb for me to rate them 5 stars. So good. So it's been a while since I've read this one. I've actually got the second one on my shelf up there, which I haven't read yet. So in this book you follow along of a girl named Juliet, and she has magic powers basically. So the world is kind of similar to the world that we live in now, but there are some like fantasy kind of bits, so like people with magic powers and all those kind of things. But she has magic powers, and she is held captive by the establishment, which is like this high up group. It's kind of like the government, but it's not. So it's a big group like that, and they've held her captive because of her powers, and they want to use her, I guess, for war, but she doesn't want to do that. And she is the only person she knows with magic powers, and she sees her powers in a bad way, because if she touches someone, she can kill them, and she doesn't want to be this weapon, because their establishment, they're using her as a weapon basically. And so she fights back, and so she ends up meeting this guy, Adam Kent, I think his name is, and oh my god, he's literally my book boyfriend. He is perfect. So she's also been locked up pretty much her whole life. She has a tiny little window with bars with showing the outside, and that's all she gets to see. So the world that they're living in is crumbling away. So imagine our world like in 2050, if we keep doing really bad things to it, if we keep, you know, with the air pollution, you know, wastage, all this plastic and all that stuff, if we keep doing stuff like that, that's basically what this world is like. So it's kind of almost set in the future. That's how I see it, us in the future. Anyway, she ends up escaping with Adam, and she's not alone basically. There is so much that happens in this book. It is so good, and it's only a little one. It is a series, so you can read this book by itself, but I feel like it ends on kind of a cliffhanger, so that's why I'm desperate to read the next one, because I want to know what happens next. But yeah, this is absolutely brilliant, and it's not too fantasy like, because it's set as if it was like us in the future, so it's not confusing, and it just flows, and just written so well, and you definitely, if you read this, you will definitely like it. And then there's another book that I actually have on the Kindle, and so I don't have it as a physical book to show you, but it's called Flawed, and it's, if you've read the Shatter Me book, you will like Flawed, definitely. Like it gives off really similar vibes to Flawed, and when I think about both of these books, I kind of cross them over because they're quite similar but also completely different, so it kind of confuses me. So Flawed is by Cecilia Ahern or something like that. I've got it all written down here. So you follow along this girl called Celestine North. The world is a bit like our world, although just like with the Shatter Me book, there's a higher up, almost government kind of people. They aren't great basically. They do bad stuff in the world, just like with the Shatter Me movie, so it's kind of similar to that. And I can't remember what they're called, but they floor people. So if someone does something wrong, sometimes it's not even a really bad thing, you basically get called flawed, and these people punish you so bad. You get locked up kind of in a cage, in a cell, and it's hard to explain because I've read this a while ago, but they burn you. You can get like an iron kind of press thing with that shows the branding F with a circle around it, means you're flawed. So this can happen on your tongue, your neck, your back, your shoulders, your chest, like everywhere. And the more bad things you do as you become a flawed person, you know, if you were to do that, the more branding you get everywhere on your face and your body and everywhere. Oh, and if you're like a normal person like me, and I was to stick up for a flawed person, or to even talk or socialize or do anything with a flawed person, I will be branded flawed, and I will be then flawed and locked up, because the flawed cannot talk or do anything or mix with the ordinary people. So there's this one girl, Cecilia, and she stands up for the flawed. So everyone else in society believes that the flawed are bad, like, but Cecilia knows it's wrong, and she sticks up for this old man who is branded flawed. So Cecilia gets taken in and she gets put in the cell and she gets branded flawed, and she knows, oh, I forgot about that, the person who is in charge of the organisation of these flawed people kind of thing, the people that brand the people flawed, she knows him, and she always thought he was a really nice guy, but he's actually not. It turns out he's not. And anyway, there's a bit of a love triangle going on in there, and it's just basically her escaping and standing up for these people. And oh my god, it is so good. I'm literally terrible for explaining books, but it's really hard to, especially with books like this, because I don't want to spoil it. But oh, it's so good. So definitely it has really similar quantities vibes to Shatter Me. So literally, if you've read this book, you'll like Flawed. If you've read Flawed, you'll like Shatter Me. And oh my god, I don't think enough people have read Flawed. I don't really hear people talking about it, but it is honestly so good, and it's so fast paced. It's a page turner, and everything ends on literally a cliffhanger. And the book ended on a cliffhanger. The book didn't finish. It did not finish. It sounded like she was in mid sentence. I was like, what? I was like, I need to know what happens next. You didn't finish. Just right at a part where you need to know what happens next. The book finished. Luckily, there's a second one, and I've got it on the Kindle, so I need to read that. But yes, if you ever see Flawed, pick it up. Pick it up, I'm not kidding, it was 5 stars for me. So those are my book recommendations for when you're in a reading slump or to get you into reading. I definitely think the fast-paced books that have a lot going on in them are ones to get you gripped, because there's nothing more boring than being in a book slump and you're just reading a really slow burn, boring romance kind of book. Definitely these are the kind of books that get me out of a reading slump. They're really fast-paced, so much going on, tense, page turner, cliffhangers, all those kind of books. And all these books I've said to you, they all checked it off on the list. So thank you so much guys for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you're having a lovely autumn so far. I've got my lovely, ow, that's hot. I've got my lovely autumn candle going, and it's pumpkin spice, and I'm all here for it. I absolutely love all the autumn scents. Anyways, I'll see you in the next video guys. Thank you for watching. Bye.